I'm at the Lady Gaga concert. I wasn't going to come, and then I got roped in 2 days ago.
Welcome back. It is day 36 of the Oscar Pistorius trial. Joining me now live in our Johannesburg virtual studio is Chris Greenland, a former Zimbabwean High Court judge and a regular guest on Channel 199. Always, of course, here to offer you legal expertise. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Bongani. And I should say I got best wishes to convey to you from my home country, which I visited recently.
Oh, fantastic.
You've got a big fan base there.
Great. It's nice to know that Channel 199 is being watched all over the continent. Let's just look back on this day. Of course, in the morning we started with the finalization of the cross-examination of Piet van Zyl. And a number of issues arose when Gerrie Nel was reminding him, because yesterday he told us the only trips he ever had to arrange for Oscar Pistorius were those involving Reeva Steenkamp. And today, Gerrie Nel read out those letters in which Oscar Pistorius was asking Piet van Zyl to make arrangements for one Jenner and, of course, Sam Taylor. In the context of what the defense has been trying to do in trying to show a particular sense of the relationship of Reeva and Oscar, is all of this working?
I think barely. Putting a best case scenario on this, it really amounts to character evidence. It's useful to the court because for a judge it's useful to know more about the accused rather than less. But as regards the merits of the case, and the merit of the case here are why did Oscar shoot Reeva on the night in question, I don't think it's taking the matter forward at all. And it's opening the door to the state, to Gerrie Nel, attacking Oscar's character, his personality. I just find it bemusing.
The second issue, of course, that arose today was both teams read from the reports that, of course, looked at the 30-day period of evaluation that Oscar Pistorius underwent. And one of the things that were quite categoric is that finally we dealt with the issue of the generalized anxiety disorder, because the reports said that Oscar does not meet the standards required in terms of somebody who suffers from general anxiety disorder.
I think as regards the merits of the case, we must never forget that what's important is that those reports, whatever they might be saying, they have said that he cannot be excused criminal liability. Whatever his specific psychological and psychiatric aspects are, to me that's what's important. To Judge Msipa and the assessors, that's what will be important. I think the rest is interesting. For instance, as regards the generalized anxiety disorder, we now know that it didn't excuse his conduct on the night in question. But it might be useful in other words, depending on what his final defense is. Yesterday I had said that if his defense is actually automatism or putative private defense, it can have a bearing there.
Well, as we now know, according to the reports, he doesn't even have it. He doesn't meet the standard for someone with generalized anxiety disorder. Where does that place Meryl Foster's evidence?
It recedes. The value of the evidence has receded. But I still think that it can't be completely discounted.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, how does it all work? We've had both teams saying they accept the conclusions of the report, although there may be factual issues that they're not entirely in agreement with. I mean, how does that work?
I think, Bongani, we must understand that to start off with, it was never the state's case that Oscar was mentally disordered at the time of the commission of the offense. Neither was it the defense. So it's not surprising that both sides accept the conclusion. And I think that's what's important here. From our point of view, from the public's point of view, we still want to know, why did he shoot Reeva? And what we are getting is a lot of juicy information about him, about his past, what type of person he is, but we're not getting the reason. We're not getting something that we can hang on to, hold on to and say, that's why he did it. We still don't have that.
Well, we now understand, of course, that Professor Dahmer, who's the current witness giving his evidence in chief, is in fact the last witness for the defense, which then raises the issue I've been asking about for quite some time now, the issue of the secondary charges. I'm going to sidetrack you for a moment there, Judge, and refer to the fact that, you know, again, when Barry Rue was reading, you know, some of the conclusions of the report, we understand that the only relationship Oscar Pistorius was unable to repair was the one with his father, whom we haven't seen in court until the last 2 days. And yet, in his explanation for one of the charges, in terms of the possession of ammunition, he said he was storing his father's ammunition, suggesting really that they had, you know, a relatively normal relationship. It's in stark contrast to what the report is now saying that Barry Rue himself read.
Yeah, Bongani, from my point of view, I think we can traverse all this evidence and we can have discussions about any number of aspects of Oscar's personality and conduct in the past that now been thrown up and offered to us. From my point of view, what's important is that the only reason for leading all this evidence is to cast Oscar in some sort of good light, in some sort of positive light. It's not really helpful because in terms of what I would call the Jeffrey Dahmer syndrome. Jeffrey Dahmer was an all-American boy, loved by everybody. Every mother wanted him as a son-in-law. If these experts had been leading evidence about his life, he would have a far more glowing personality than Oscar. And yet we know that he killed, sadistically killed, 17 human beings and more, in circumstances including necronism and cannibalism. So this stance of bringing out the good points about the accused that don't amount to an explanation of his conduct on the night in question is problematical.
Well, that brings us, I suppose, in a sense, to Professor Dahmer then. I mean, here he is, an extensive CV, as an internationally renowned expert, has had access to Oscar Pistorius. Before we even get to the nub of what he is saying, when he says he said that the last time he spoke to Oscar Pistorius before all of this was on the phone, where Oscar Pistorius relayed to him that he was lying next to the most wonderful woman. Again, I suppose a reference to Riva Steenkamp. I mean, when an expert of the caliber of Professor Dahmer sort of wades into that character evidence, what does that, you know, how is that interpreted by the court?
Well, it would make me, as a judicial officer, a little bit uncomfortable because it's a degree of familiarity that crosses a line between what you might call a professional relationship and a almost filial relationship. These people are buddies, it would appear. And it's not comfortable for a court to have your buddy saying good things about you. It's not evidence that you would regard as completely independent. Dahmer needs to be more independent, more professional and aloof of the issues in order to be more acceptable as a witness.
Well, Judge, we're still going to hear a lot more from Professor Dahmer, no doubt. Thank you for your insights in this hour.